Hello there, and welcome back. It's been a while. It's been a very long while. So I'm gonna cut to the chase as quickly as I can. If you've clicked on this video, you've already seen how incredibly long it is. So this is just me making engine mounts for the first time. I have never done this before. I do not have any specialized equipment. I don't have any special benders that can bend 1/4-inch plate. So pretty much everything that I do here today, I try to go in as much detail as I can, my reasoning behind it, so that hopefully it'll help somebody trying to figure this out kind of on their own, just as I did. I've edited this thing for quite a while. I thought I was gonna try and make it a lot shorter, but it didn't seem, there was just so much that I wanted to talk about and show. So if you're not interested in watching somebody build engine mounts and, spoiler alert, mess up for over an hour, then this is not the video for you. I don't recommend watching this in one sitting. If so, you really probably should reevaluate your life choice. I'm just kidding. No. This is coming from somebody who spent 2 hours watching a stream for a game from 2006, Most Wanted. There's a mod out for it. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So without further ado, let's jump into it. As I said, it's very long, and it's the entire process of me creating engine mounts from scratch. Enjoy! Okay, today is the day I'm going to start working on the engine mounts, building my own custom engine mounts. I'm gonna try and kind of document the process as much as I can. I am in no way a professional. I've never built motor mounts before. I've built like brackets and stuff like that, but I've never done anything like really structural. So this is going to be a learning experience. I'm sure I'm going to make plenty of mistakes, but you know, it's just all part of learning. I'll show you what we have to start with, and then just kind of the process as it goes through. So here's our kind of starting point. This is the driver's side, and obviously there's some headers in the way. So if we zoom in, you can see those 4 bolt holes. So that's gonna be where it's gonna start mounting. And as you can see down here, there's some stuff in the way. Most of those are power steering lines. I really wanna try and leave most of those where they're at, just because I don't really wanna make new lines and stuff. I'm trying to make this as semi-simple as possible, so somebody could even replicate it if they wanted. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the headers and see kind of how much space we have down there and go from there. All right, got the headers out, good to go there. There's actually pretty decent amount of room. I want to try and have it land kind of in the middle down here. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I might have to remove this line, undo it from the rack. I'd like to try and avoid that, but we'll see. All right, start making mounts. Okay, so this is what I start out with. Some cardboard, some grease, you know, for a good time. And one of the bolts. So this is the driver's side mount that came off of the engine. So all I'm doing is I'm kind of lining it up, right? Getting it straight as I can with my eye. And then just gonna use a Sharpie, mark the outsides. But then Sharpie's not gonna fit through here. That's what this bolt's gonna do. So I'm going to outline this now, which hopefully you'll be able to see in the GoPro. And if not, well, oh well. It's not that difficult. Morning. So, very simple. I moved it just a bit. just gonna dip it in there just a little bit. And then, like so. Squish it around. And now time for the boom big reveal. Wow. Yep, see? Got all of our points marked. And now, can use that as a starting point for the template. Pretty simple stuff. This is all of my SAE sockets. You can see they're bright, shiny, like they never got used. Now, this is not the most precise way of doing it, but get you in the ballpark. Yep. And after a little work with the old drill, there's holes in it. You can see it's not perfectly straight here, but you know, it's not the end of the world. You can always just turn it a little bit. Once you, this is not going to be the last one that I make either. This is the first revision, and I'm sure I'm going to have to make a few more before it actually works perfectly. So I'm not worrying about it too much, but let's cut this out and see if it fits on the engine. Yeah, looks pretty good. All right. As you can see, fits great. Doesn't interfere with anything. Nice and flush up against the block. Ready for the next step. Okay, so got the template, everything for the part that actually attaches to the engine. Now I'm making the little extension piece that needs to kind of jut out at a 45. I don't have a protractor, so I'm just going to use this part of the square, which is at a 45-degree angle. Already marked it. It's about 50 mil. Yeah, so made a slight mistake, kind of miscalculation, since I was going to have them go this way. That was going to go into this second piece. It was going to have a secondary bend on it, and I didn't really want to deal with that, so I'm just going to do it on the opposite side in the opposite way so that it'll be correct, if that makes sense. I'm an idiot. It's good enough, but yeah, that was stupid. Yeah, it didn't have room on the other side, so what did I do? I basically drew the identical thing on the opposite side mirrored, so it's still not going to have the room. Goodness gracious. There we go. It'll be kind of like that. All right, here we are. You can see it's not, couldn't get it quite there. Didn't have a big enough piece, but hopefully this will jut it forward enough. You can see. You just put some tape on the opposite side that you want it to kind of angle at, and then you can kind of mess with the angle and figure it out. I'm gonna try and put this in, see where everything sits. All right, hopefully I can kind of get this in here to show you. So, oh God. So, as you can see, even if this is at a 45, like it clears, but there needs to be more that comes off that. And then the mount has to go under it. I wasn't even thinking there's a rubber isolator that needs to fit under all of that. So I'm gonna remove this line, and that should pretty much take care of all of my issues. But we'll see. Okay. Yep, as you can see, got that line out, and I have tons of room to play with down here now. So I guess next thing I will do is make the next part of this mount. All right, so I'm gonna cut the next little section here, about like so. This will all get kind of trimmed down as needed, but yeah, I'm just gonna trim this part out, tape it just like up here, so then I can have two 45s that essentially equal a 90, but push it away from the engine. That probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, but it will once once you kind of see it. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, so here's the rough template. And you can kind of see how it kind of juts it away. It'll be kind of like that, kind of stick out. This will be slotted down here just in case I need to move the engine either fore or aft. So now I'm going to make a little brace to go in between these two that will, one, kind of keep the angles the same, but two, will also be a brace once I make it out of metal, which will strengthen it. So next step, pretty simple. I need to make the brace that goes in between these two. So I just basically use my calipers, figured out what that needs to be. Now I'm going to transfer it on over to this piece, basically cut out a wedge with two 45s, because 45 degrees, the matching angles that need to be on both of these ones. And then I'll kind of show how that works. Let's see, did I think I did it wrong again? Yep, did it wrong. So the mark that I made right here, yeah, I didn't follow that apparently. I followed where the end of my line went. So it's a little too long. So I'm just gonna move that 45 over here and we should be fine. There we go. Yeah, that's great. Boop boop. So I will do my best, but it's gonna be a little tricky with one hand. But basically, this part just kind of fits in like so, and then we'll brace like that. Pretty simple. Yeah, super simple, but effective. And just like that. And here we go. See? Pretty much 90 degree. That 245s equals 90. Pretty simple math. Even my dumb brain can figure that out. And this is the rough version. Yeah, so here it is, all nice and taped up, looking pretty good. So now I need to do the hole in the center here, which will turn into a slot afterwards. And then I do want to do another brace on this side, just, I don't know, just in case. Leverage is a powerful tool. Yeah, it's looking pretty good, I think. Before I forget, I did want to mention something that I have learned. Always make sure that you have enough room for your bolt head, like where you're going to bend, where your brace is going to go. I know it seems very simple, but you can spend hours on something only then to find out that the head of the bolt is on the edge and it won't sit flush, and then you get to redo it all over again. But yeah, you can see plenty of room. I actually thought about it this time. Okay, so for this next part, just gonna measure this distance, cut it in half. That'll give me my center line going this direction, and then do the same thing this way. I'll give it there, and that'll be a spot to drill my hole. Do the same thing this direction. 95 mil. Half of that. Right. Yeah, 47 and a half. That's what I was gonna say. No, looks pretty good. Now, you'll actually be able to hopefully see what I'm trying to do. So, these are going to have to get cut down and faced and to fit properly. But, essentially, it's just going to sit like so. Like that. Okay, so this will give you kind of an idea. This isn't the exact angle anything's going to be at or anything like that, but yeah. So I drilled my hole, as you saw, probably. And then that's going to sit in the vehicle pretty much straight like that. And the engine mount may go that way. I'm going to have to... Oh well, you get the picture. So it's basically... Obviously the hole will be the right size by that time, but yeah, you can see that's how it's going to mount. Very, very simple. So now I'm just going to slot this. We should be good to go. So I'm leaning towards, I think 1/2 inch might not quite be enough. Yeah, so we'll do 0.75 on either side then. Well, a little off center there, but it should be okay. That looks a little better. Alrighty. Not gonna win any competitions for prettiness, but should work. Yeah. So here it is. Gonna go try and fit it in the vehicle. Didn't come out super nice, but it's just a proof of concept. This isn't the final piece. Metal is a lot harder to work with. Got the driver's side mount pretty much ready. Looks like it's gonna land in a real good spot. I want to try and show you it with this on underneath, but it's very difficult to hold that while also holding the camera. You're just gonna have to take my word for it for now. I am gonna brace this side a little bit more just to make myself feel a little bit better, but I think it's almost ready for to be transferred on over to metal, which is exciting stuff. Okay, so for this next part, I'm just gonna add this little bit kind of on here, just so I can brace this little section a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I go and grab a piece of cardboard now because I'm gonna try and fill in the gap. You saw that little piece that I'm adding on so that the brace has a part to attach to. Well, now I'm just creating that kind of part that would go in between that. It'll make sense later. Don't worry. Yeah, working with such a small table is a pain sometimes. Yeah, much better. I think now I actually have something to attach to. Yeah, I like that a lot better with that part kind of added on. See, this is the beauty of working in just cardboard. Oh, you know, you made a cut that didn't end up working properly. Just make another piece and tape it on. But yeah, so now little brace can kind of fit in this area. So another thing I wanted to mention that I've learned is you want to get your part pretty much where it's going to be. So, you know, check for clearance and all that kind of stuff. But especially, you want to try and put, like if there's going to be a big nut with like a washer or something, you want to put that on and see at max, is it going to hit anything? So that's one thing another thing that I've just learned is you want to test this before you make all this out of metal and find out that this piece is too close and you can't get full adjustment. So actually what I usually do is I get these to max position and then I just mark with a Sharpie kind of on both sides all the way around. I do the same thing on the other, and then that gives you an idea, you know, hey, don't encroach on this space, and you'll be good. And that's what I'm gonna do now. So now I'm gonna make a little brace for here. We should be good to go. Yep, so make another 45. As we know, that's the angle between these two, roughly. As you can see, it's nicely. Sweet. Yeah, that looks great. A little tall, so you're gonna fix that. Nice. That looks great. See, check that out. That looks nice. Plenty of room on both sides too. Good, good, good. is with the brace. It looks pretty good. Kind of wish that both of those lined up, and maybe I'll do that for the final version. It's just did make the top part real tall, and I probably make it work. But yeah, so this is the first part of how I make things out of metal. The next thing will be transferring all this over to metal and making a bunch of sparks. Should be cool. So I'm about to show you the reason that you should constantly test fit. You know, I test fit it every single time, except this last one when I added this extra part and the brace. And look at this. And now you can see it hits the alternator bracket, or not alternator, sorry, AC compressor. So gotta clean that up, and yeah, so gotta deal with that now. So this happens. Basically had to completely undo all of the add-on stuff that I added over here, but it's okay, it fits now, so I'll show you. Let's see. Fits now, plenty of clearance. Now the only thing is this bolt for the here, I'll zoom in. By zoom in, I mean I'll get closer. This bottom bolt is very close to hitting my bracket, so I'm gonna cut mine a little bit just to make my life easier in the future, just in case I need to remove my AC compressor so that I don't have to remove an engine mount. Excessive would just leave it. Oh, you have to remove your engine mount in order to get your AC compressor on? Well, why are you using an AC compressor? You should be using ITBs and no power steering and, you know, just blah, blah, blah. Okay, going to start on the engine mount. Just gonna go ahead and basically trace that out, you know, all the different dimensions and everything, and then go ahead and cut it out. Got it all traced, marked up. So now I'm gonna do the next section at 45-degree angles. And I believe I'm doing 50 mil length. I'll have to double check the measurement, but yep. Got the 45 area all taken care of. It was 50 mil, so I just measured it with the old calipers. And then this one does have a little bit of I had it kind of start a little bit inward because it was hitting something, and that's 14 mil in between there. All right, so now I'm gonna do a little pedestal that the actual mount is gonna sit on, and I believe that's 50 by 60, but I'll measure it again just to be sure. All right. As you can see, pretty much ready. Pedestal's a tiny bit bigger, but I can always cut it down and whatnot. But there it is. Pretty much ready to cut out, and that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do now. I'm gonna cut this part first, just so this piece is easier to work with rather than dealing with this giant piece. Got it cut. Sorry, down here. Pretty straight line. It got away from me a little bit there when it caught some probably hard parts of the metal, but I mean, kind of see. Looks pretty good. And then you can even put the, I mean, it's not exact, but it's pretty close. Not bad for just doing it by hand. All right. So next step, I'm gonna go ahead, I need to drill all the holes in this to make it a little bit easier to cut. Basically like little relief holes at all the little corners, which will just make it a lot easier when I try and cut it out. Okay, so now I'm going to use this basically to put circles in all the little sections that would make it easier, so when I cut, I don't have to cut all the way through, and I don't have to worry about somehow cutting in a little bit. It'll make more sense once I kind of get there, but yeah, so I'm gonna go do that. I'll also do the same thing for the bolt holes here. It's not an exact science, and chances are these will need to be made a tiny bit bigger, as this does not have as much play as cardboard. I know, a 1/4-inch steel plate, you would think it'd have just as much, if not more play than cardboard. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and get to that. But yeah, you can see, I just see little pencil marks, nothing crazy. But yeah, so now I need to use my old punch, put the center mark where it needs to go, and then bloop, 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 blah, blah, blah. And then it'll be time to drill some holes. Oh, yeah, I forgot, gotta do these. Cool. So I just started a little pilot hole on each one of them afterwards, just because when I use something, it starts with a 4. I want a little bit more so it can't really walk. Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and install this in the old drill press and get to it. Here it is, all the relief holes cut. Same with the holes for the actual mounting to the block. I'm gonna set up my little stand outside and cut it out real quick. Okay, here it is. I think it looks pretty decent. See, you can do an okay job with cutting straight lines by hand. This section, it's straight, but it's a little far over. I wanted to err on the side of caution. I didn't want to nick. Oh, you mean like that? Yeah, no, I didn't want to nick it, but that's okay. It's not super deep. That should be fixable. If I might even just round that off. I don't know yet. Still figuring it all out, but I think it turned out awesome. Next step is to mark and drill these for the slot where the actual isolator will sit. So I did try to fit up the mount and I discovered it doesn't. As you can see, that hole does not line up. The other three line up just fine. That one does not. So for a couple hours, I oversized the hole, then I ended up hogging it out, hand filed it, until it did finally fit. It took a little bit of time, but I didn't really record any of the process because I was pretty frustrated with myself. And as you can see right here, they do all four fit. Got the mounts all mocked up. I will be honest, this bottom right one, I did have to oversize the hole and even hog it out a little bit to slot it just a tiny bit. Apparently, yeah, there is some variances when you use cardboard and then go to 1/4 inch plate. Yeah, so I made a mistake in the beginning, but this is my first time doing this, so I'm trying not to be too hard on myself, but I'm really good at doing that. Anyway, I think it looks really cool. I just wanted to make sure it fit up properly and everything before I cut, continued doing more and cut and everything. Now that the mount bolts up without issue, good to go there. Now I'm confident to drill my holes here to start my slot, so I'll have some adjustability on the mount. So all I'm going to do is take the width here, which is 92 mil if I remember. I'll measure it again, which would be 46. So I'll make a center mark here and then do the same thing this way. Make sure it's centered, then that'll give me my center point. I'm saying center a lot. And then I'll figure out how much adjustment I want on either side and then drill the holes accordingly. Yep, it's about 92. Cool, that'd be 46. And then this is 60 mil. So half of 60 is 30. So I want 35 mil of adjustability. So that'd be 17.5 either direction. Now keep in mind, that is not the point where we are going to be drilling. That's going to be where the circle needs to end. trying to remember. Is it a 12 that I end up with? I think it is. Yeah, half of 12 would be 6. Alrighty, got them all cut. You can see this one's a tiny bit high, but now I need to just go ahead and slot this. So remove this inner material here and make it all nice and ovally. I did want to mention what you're about to see is not the way you should do this. I basically am just using a drill bit to kind of mill that material away. It's 100% not how a drill bit is designed to be used, and really you should use like carbide bits or something like that. I didn't have any, so this is what I used. So you may be asking yourself, wait a second, you said you didn't have anything else other than the drill bit. Well, that's not entirely true. I do have this tool, which is good, but the bit that's stuck in it is very old. It doesn't work very well. It's all gummed up with material, and it's stuck in there. The collet is actually seized, and I've tried a decent amount of times to unseize it, very unsuccessfully. So I just basically used it at this point to try and knock down the really big ridges. It worked okay. You're about to see how I shape things. What I've learned is really just kind of keeping the grinder moving is really, really important. Just and kind of contouring. You can see how I'm kind of turning it over and following the line. I'm going to leave this first little section completely uncut so you can kind of see my process and how I do it. The rest of it will be very jump cut like everything else. Just so it goes by a little bit quicker, but I just kind of want to show you my process and how I go about kind of rounding off edges and stuff with just an angle grinder and a flat wheel. And there's after. Just looks so much more finished and nice. Cool. So here they are after rounding off all the edges. See, just looks a little bit more finished. Definitely doesn't look like a machine did it, but you know, it's pretty good. So now I think I'm just gonna run, because this was 36 grit. I think I'm gonna do like either 60 or 120 to clean up the edges and stuff. And then I think it'll be time to do the scary part, which is slice almost all the way through this so I can bend it. Yeah, hopefully that goes well. The eagle-eyed among you may have noticed in the last clip there were two mounts. So yes, I have been, at the same time, I've been working on the intake side as well as the exhaust. I'm really only showing you the exhaust side because it would be incredibly repetitive and there'd be way more footage, and I think this video is already plenty long. Actually, I think it's too long, but I wanted to show the entire process, how I went from beginning to end, never building mounts like this before, how I went about it. I'm hoping someone enjoys it. If not, it's just a way that I can look back and see what I did and do something different next time. Alrighty, got a nice fresh cutting blade on the old angle grinder. And now I'm gonna try and do this as straight as I can. Get it pretty freaking deep so that I can hand bend it. And then once I do that, then I'll do that one, and then the same thing on the other one. And one last thing, this is the intake side. So this is the other mount that you haven't really been seeing me building on the side of all the rest of them. I did want to show this part because I wasn't really sure if this was going to work, and I felt that it was important to show you that a pretty straight line can actually be cut with just an angle grinder if you're patient and take your time. Let's see how this goes. I think that turned out pretty good. Should be enough to bend, but we'll see. All right, now it's time to do that one. Alright, so I mentioned this before, but I mentioned that you really have to pay attention to where the head of the angle grinder is going to go, like throughout your cut. And I made a mistake here, so what I had to do is I cut as much as I could, but I knew it wasn't a good idea to keep going, so I just stopped, and I'm just repositioning my my clamps further up so that the head of the angle grinder doesn't hit. Alright, there's the second one. It's pretty straight. It's not perfect. I ran into an issue. This was too far over, and then the head of my angle grinder basically hit it, and it caused it to kind of move around, and I couldn't get it to be completely straight. But I think it'll be alright. Yeah, gonna go ahead and cut the next one now. and then try and bend them, I guess. Ooh, yeah, you can really see that that one kind of, oh well. That's what happens when you use a grinder. It's not perfect.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Fuck.
Well, this was great. This was really fun. I feel like I've had a lot of time to practice, and I feel like I've gotten better.
All right, I'm pissed at myself. The one thing that I even thought, I was like, oh, probably should mark both of these sides. Yeah, so first off, cut is absolutely terrible. Second off, wrong fucking side, you idiot. So I did a terrible job documenting this part. I made the decision that I'm going to try and weld the part that I cut incorrectly in the previous clip. And that's literally all I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to be attempting to TIG weld that gap. So at this point, I kind of start remembering that you need to clamp down both sides, because you can actually see that side of the mount is actually starting to peel up from all that heat. And the reason it's on top of the aluminum is that actually helps suck out a lot of that heat to prevent it from warping. But yeah, I just end up clamping the other side and going from there. Yes, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that there are sparks. You are not supposed to have sparks when you're TIG welding. I learned later on that all the impurities and stuff is actually on the top of mild steel like this, and you have to remove it. Otherwise, your welds will be contaminated. Alright, so I filled it all in. I had the wrong size tungsten, wrong size rod, too thin on both counts, trying to fill that gap. But this was not supposed to be structural, really. It was just supposed to fill that gap, so now I can cut the backside, and I hopefully should be able to bend this. I'm probably going to wait for it to cool a little, and then I'm just going to run another pass along it, just because a lot of these aren't actually penetrating at all. They're all just kind of sitting on top. Real quick, I didn't record any of it, but I just did like a really rough wash pass to try and just really get the welds to penetrate better. It looks like they did. Alrighty, so after a little bit with the old angle grinder and a flap disc, got it look down. I did not realize there was that much. This is actually metal that got eaten away. I think I was running a little too hot, and because I was on an edge, I was basically trying to fill a gap. I basically think that the heat that I needed for the thick material, even though it was on kind of an edge, when I went back over it as like a second pass to make sure it penetrated, I think I might have just been a little too hot, or I'm just not too sure. That must be what it is. And so it's very porous, which is not good, but I think it'll be all right for now, just so I can do the cut and everything back here. And then after I get it all bent and welded and stuff a normal way, I can go back. Yeah, you can see how much heat I put in at the beginning, which was way too much, and then I lowered it for the rest of it. So I've never done this before, so just kind of showing you my experience so far. I could just remake the piece, but I don't really feel like it, so I'm going to try it this way. So now I just need to make the same marks like I did before on this side, except actually cut the proper side. And look, due to the amount of heat, it's already warped in the correct direction, so that's kind of nice. Alrighty, so here it is. I showed you before, welds aren't super great. When I originally did this cut, I think I mentioned it, it kind of went whoop. Not quite that exaggerated, but quite a bit. You can actually see it from here to here. So I decided to fix that second round. You got to see it get bent. But yeah, bending went fine, except this is the part I was alluding to earlier. So when I originally cut the other side, I said that I went above the line where I was planning. So this time I was like, oh, well, I'll do it on the correct part now, which is quite a bit lower. Well, basically there is a massive crack kind of along that piece because it went into my other cut as well as the part that I filled. So I need to figure out what I want to do with this, because that's a lot to fill, especially when all that down there also needs to be filled. So I'll probably ask a couple buddies, a couple welding friends, see what they say. Yeah, might end up just remaking the piece, but at least I know I can do it now, you know, fairly simple. Ooh, I went a little bit past, but I can always bend it back just a tiny bit, but it looks cool, right? Alrighty then. So here they are, kind of next to each other, my cardboard template, and then the one at a 1/4 inch plate. Pretty cool. Anyway, I am going to be making the brace, gusset, plate parts. I don't really know the exact way to put it, but I'm going to make a couple different versions. I'm not entirely sure how I want it to look. You probably figured out by now I am a little bit picky when it comes to looks. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do kind of like a cutout here, what I'm going to do just to remove some material and make it look a bit nicer. But I'm going to make a couple different templates out of cardboard and basically go from there. Alrighty, here's my little template. This is not quite the 45 that it needs to be. So I'm going to use this and try and bend it just like I did yesterday. The bending went well. So I think I just got a little too preoccupied and forgot to record this. But this is just me shaping it and making it look the way I want it to in terms of the braces. Okie dokie. So I got them roughly cut out. Didn't go quite deep enough on the back side, so I gotta do that. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and clamp this single piece in on the table, do the cut to separate the two, and then do the same thing with this. And then I can start shaping and doing all that fun stuff. Cool. So I got it all marked out. I'm just going to go ahead and cut off the little parts that I can, do everything I can with the grinder as is, cut pretty far in, and just kind of figure out how to remove all this material without just grinding it all. That'll just take forever. Alrighty, so this is where I left off yesterday. I got a little overzealous with my angle grinder, and I sanded a lot more material off at once than I should have. So I was thinking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to build up weld on this side and all this. And I sent a picture to my friend just to show him, my friend Jeremy. He was like, dude, why don't you just shave down the backside? Yeah, you'll have slightly less, you know, this way and this way, but not a ton. And then you can make sure it fits perfectly. So that was a real dumb moment for me. And he's right. So I'm just going to go ahead and shave this down, because then that'll, of course, make this wider, which will push this closer. And I think we should be good to go. Okay, so I finished shaving all these down. You can see it fits up pretty dang well. I think it looks good. Oh yeah, don't look at that. Yeah, anyway, this is the other one. Yeah, I think they look pretty awesome. Okay, so since the last clip, I've just been kind of thinking of the next things that I need to do. I'm leaning towards probably trying to weld this part again, just doing another pass. I'm not sure what I did. I don't even know if you can even see it in the camera, but there's just these little divots all along here. It's almost like I was using too much heat, like when I passed over that part. Oh, that's probably what it was. I don't know. I'm just gonna try and fix that, make it so that there's not all these divots that make it look like my metal is weaker than it is, I guess. But I think it is actually a structurally weak point. And before I do this part, yeah, that's a lot. I'm gonna have to clean all that out. But before I do that, I'm going to probably weld these in, weld the braces in. That way it'll limit the warping, hopefully, and I'll just kind of go slow. But I think this should do a pretty good job of keeping it from warping. And I think those are probably my next steps. You'll notice there's a little bit of indecision and unsuredness, if that's a word, about what I'm going to do next, because I'm actually not entirely sure at this moment. You know, figuring out as I go along. But I'm pretty sure welding of some kind is next, which is good, because I enjoy welding. Not that great at it, but I enjoy it. So I guess I'll see you then. Okie doke, got it all cleaned up and ready. Just gonna attempt to kind of fill in these divots with some much smaller filler rod, and I'm just gonna see how it goes. Alrighty, so they are not super pretty. I did my best to clean it. I used wire wheel as well as some acetone, but you can see from the black outline I'm definitely still having some type of contamination, but they're okay. They were only really needing to be, I think, surface level just to cover those divots. So I'm gonna grind all this down and see how it turns out. Okay, so here we can see, just wanted to mock them up real quick before I went to welding, and you can see they fit pretty good, pretty tight, but looks good. Oh yeah, look at that, those look great. Alrighty, so I spent the last hour or so trying different abrasives and different things to try and prep this for welding, because I have to remove all this mill scale. I learned that previously when I was like, why are my welds so contaminated? And that's just what happens when you do TIG stuff. Everything has to be super duper clean. So the mill scale is actually all the impurities. When this metal is kind of made, all the impurities rise to the surface, coats it in this what is called mill scale. It does not weld very well. If you have a MIG, you can usually blow through it. It's okay. But if you're TIGging, it's just a bad time. Anyway, this took a really long time, and it's really kind of tricky trying to get certain size wheels into contours and stuff like this. So I'm gonna do a little bit of research to see if maybe there's a better way to do this, because I mean, I still have to do the entire other engine mount, and I still want to paint this, so I'd like to have it semi-uniform finish. I still have to remove all the mill scale off this. Like, I'm wondering if there's a quicker way so that I'm not burning through all my wheels and just spending a lot of time on it. So I'm gonna do a little research and kind of go from there. All right, after I did some research, turns out there are some things you can use to remove mill scale without resorting to wasting a lot of money on grinding discs. So I'm gonna give that a shot. So you fill up a container with muriatic acid, you let this stuff sit in there for about 15 minutes and it just kind of falls off, which is pretty cool. So let's see how that works. So here's our muriatic acid. So we're just gonna pour it in there and then dip our parts in. There we go. And close. I mean, you can see it's definitely doing something. I'm pretty sure that's still. I don't know. It might be done. I'll probably leave it in there for another 5 minutes or so. So here's a before and, well, here's before, and this is after. You can see it definitely takes that stuff off. I'm gonna try and run a Scotch-Brite pad over this. You can see this has only been maybe 2 minutes out of the bath. It just immediately starts rusting. Yeah, I did wash it off with my hose, and I'm guessing that's probably what started doing all this. But it's super surface, so just run a Scotch-Brite over it. But yeah, you can even especially see it here. Like, look at the difference. Mill scale, no mill scale. Pretty cool. Okay, I got all my pieces all cleaned up with the Scotch-Brite pad. Got this piece as well as this section all acetone down, ready to go. Gonna start up this recording, turn on the old welder, and get to it. Alright, as you can see, I may or may not, but definitely did some welding without the camera rolling. I got a little bit frustrated. It's been a while since I've TIG welded. They weren't going super great. Yeah, so I turned it off while I kind of tried figuring things out. I got it kind of okay over there. Anyway, I got the first one in, and then I have this, the main brace that's actually going to be probably doing most of the strengthening is tacked in now. So let's see how it goes again. Okay, here it is. Definitely got it a little too hot in a few places. Got a little impatient, but the welds are definitely a lot better than they were on the other side. Yeah. So I think probably tomorrow it'll be time to weld the back sides, which is the real scary part for me. But I'm hoping these braces here should keep it from distorting too much, because I'm gonna have to put a lot of heat into it, I think. But we'll see. Okay, so I failed pretty hard on this part. I didn't record any of this process, so it's just gonna be a photo slideshow, so sorry about that. So the first thing you see are the mounts after I welded that ginormous gap. The welds didn't turn out perfect. I'm not gonna just keep making excuses. I've just never done this before. Whatever. So it's gonna then transition into, so now here you can see the other side. So this would be the intake side mounts. So you can see the gap. I even showed you kind of the technique I used. I used a more kind of traditional technique that I believe pipe welders use, which is a lay wire technique, where basically you lay the actual wire in the gap and then you basically wash over and kind of melt it into the surrounding stuff. It seemed to work pretty darn well. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, actually, especially considering it was my first time. And I definitely do want to say that bracing it first was the right decision, or at least I think it was, because there's almost no warping. They fit perfectly. Here you can see it's going into the final product of both of the mounts. So you got your intake side here, and then the exhaust side here. Cool. I think that's it. Bye.